In that breaking news, a deadly midair crash over the icy waters of the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. An American Airlines jet collides with an Army Black Hawk helicopter. Just a short time ago, officials confirming this is now a recovery operation.
At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident.
A heartbreaking update. Authorities saying that the fuselage of the passenger plane is in 3 different sections of the river.
Crews continue to dive in and around the scene, but more questions are mounting. How could something like this happen? Transportation officials insist this was a clear night and that the passenger plane was in what they describe as a standard flight pattern. So what went wrong?
Yeah, apparently the helicopter was in a standard pattern, so was the plane. Devastated family members this morning, you can only try to imagine. One man was texting with his wife who was on the plane just 20 minutes, checking in, hey, what time do you land, before this deadly crash. And all across the country this morning, anxious travelers think about that too. Reagan National Airport expected to reopen in just about an hour from now. Yeah, that's right, because as we go on at 10, they're saying 11.
Welcome to Eyewitness News Mornings at 10. Clearly, we have a lot going on. Very busy Thursday morning. And we just learned that President Trump is going to be talking about the disaster sometime around 11. But here's what we know right now at this point. This collision happened around 9 o'clock last night as the regional jet was on approach to Reagan National Airport. Authorities say communication between air traffic controllers and the pilots of both aircrafts, as Mike just said, remained constant. And the helicopter was aware of the plane in the area. They were aware of a plane. Was it the plane? Part of the investigation.
We know 64 people were on board that jet, 60 passengers and 4 crew members, 3 service members aboard that Black Hawk helicopter. None of them, we understand, were senior officials. Investigators do not believe anyone survived.
Yeah, because if you look at the plane video, you see another plane above that plane.
Such a busy...
Right, and it's a busy airspace. It's dark at night. Eyewitness News team is on the ground in D.C., as you would expect, and here at home with the anxious travelers. So let's start with Kemberly Richardson and the latest on the crash. And now, what they're telling us is the recovery. Cam, good morning.
Oh, it is not a good morning, but good morning to you. And from the very beginning, authorities here stressed this was a very fragile, fluid situation, and now we are seeing just that. Almost 11 hours to the minute of this deadly midair collision. Authorities are now saying they do not believe anybody made it out alive. And Sam, you mentioned that one passenger, she was riding on the American airline flight, and she texted her husband saying she would be landing here at Reagan National about 20 minutes. He tried texting her back, but it didn't go through. A midair collision in the nation's capital, now shifting from a rescue to recovery operation. Authorities say with no survivors expected.
Certainly all Washingtonians, how very sad we are for American Airlines, for the United States Department of Defense, and for all Americans for the loss of life that happened with the collision of these aircrafts.
American Airlines regional jet flight 5342 was on its final approach to Reagan National Airport when it went up in flames after colliding with a military Black Hawk helicopter. The crash happened just after 8:45 last night. The catastrophic moment was captured on an EarthCam live stream. Both the wreckage of the plane and the helicopter have been located in the Potomac River. Crews have recovered at least 28 bodies so far. As for what caused the deadly incident, at this point, officials saying it was a clear night and everything was standard and business as usual before the crash.
This was not unusual.
300 first responders raced to the scene, searching water that was barely above freezing, with high winds making things that much more difficult.
The wind started blowing last night, so we've had debris travel from the airport down as far as the Wilson Bridge.
Unfortunately, we were unable to rescue anyone.
American airline crews on scene are now helping the families and loved ones of those on board. The investigation into this crash now fully in the hands of the NTSB as officials stress that American airspace is safe.
So the question is, can I guarantee the American flying public that The United States has the most safe and secure airspace in the world, and the answer to that is absolutely yes, we do.
And this is what it looks like on the tarmac right now. The airport is still closed, but authorities say the plan is to get wheels up and planes moving in and out of here in the next hour by 11 o'clock. Officials went out of their way. They stressed they believe it is safe to fly. I did talk to a father and son who just arrived here. They're heading down to Fort Lauderdale. I asked them how did they feel about getting on their flight, one of the first to take off after this deadly midair collision. The son told me he was a bit nervous. The father said not one bit. He's ready to step on that plane. So guys, a lot going on here, but in the next few hours, the next few days, the NTSB, again, the lead investigator, we will find out much, much more. For now, we're live in Arlington, Virginia. Kemberly, Richardson, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Kem, clearly a mix of all kinds of emotions that you're getting there. We thank you for that. We're going to get into the anxiety, of course, of getting on a plane, especially after this. Officials saying that there are no survivors. The 64 people on the American Airlines flight killed just minutes before they were set to arrive, to land at their destination.
And if we pause and think about that for a moment, that means so many family members and friends were in the terminal waiting to be reunited with their loved one, getting off of that plane, and then their whole lives changed minutes after that, after learning what happened. The flight route, we should mention, from Wichita, Kansas to D.C., that's about a 3.5-hour flight. And we know the plane was nearly full. And
as we understand it, this route was on schedule for about a year now, and a lot of state representatives from Kansas were on this flight often. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger continues our coverage with more on the passengers of that flight. Hey, Josh, I mean, I guess now information is kind of being released, right?
Yeah, well, Sam, it's going to start kind of trickling out. I'll just start by saying, you know, like, you fly a lot, I fly a lot. You have an expectation that you're going to arrive at your destination because the aviation system in this country is so safe. This is the deadliest crash, really the first serious deadly catastrophe involving a commercial airliner in this country since 2008. But that means nothing to the family members and friends and loved ones who are right now just in shock. We could actually show you some images inside National Airport. As soon as this happened, they shut down the airport. All traffic in and out was blocked, and the destination boards were flipped over to read this message demonstrating the catastrophe that people here had found themselves in. American Airlines opened up a lounge here at Reagan for family members or friends who perhaps might have been here, as you point out, waiting for their loved ones to arrive, or people who came here to the airport because they really didn't have any place else to go as they waited for word. So American was taking care of them. And it was here at the airport that we met one family member of a passenger on that plane, a husband who had been texting with his wife via the in-flight Wi-Fi just about 20 minutes before the crash.
I'm just praying that somebody's pulling her out of the river right now as we speak. That's all I can pray for. I'm just praying to God.
When was the last time you spoke with her?
She texted me that they were landing in 20 minutes.
Can you show us a text message that you got from her?
Landing in 20 minutes. The rest of my text did not get delivered. That's when I realized something might be up.
I want to express my sincere condolences for the accident that happened at DCA last night. We're absolutely heartbroken for the family and loved ones of the passengers and crew members, and also for those that were on the military aircraft. Our focus right now is doing everything that we can to support all of those involved and also the PSA Airlines team. This is devastating. We are all hurting incredibly.
The American Airlines CEO there, the airline launched what it calls a GO team to come here to Reagan National as well as to the airport in Wichita to try to take care of people whose loved ones were on that flight. You can imagine Wichita, a fairly small city. So many people have to know someone who was on that flight. We also know, Sam, you were pointing out that we are starting to hear information about people who were on the flight. U.S. Figure Skating is confirming several members of its community were on that flight. There was a figure skating event that had been held over the last couple of days in Wichita, and several members of that group were on this ill-fated flight here to Washington last night, and a lot more is going to come out throughout the day as people in 2 different cities reckon with what has now happened.